You know, people look at me and see a harmless old lady. They see the white hair, the soft smile, the shaky hands holding a cup of tea, and they think they know my story. She must spend her days baking cookies and humming to old songs, they say. But what if I told you that behind this gentle smile once lived a woman quietly planning something extraordinary? I wasn't always this calm. I wasn't always this patient. Once upon a time, I trusted too easily, loved too deeply, and believed that family meant safety. But trust me, my dear, when the ones you love most destroy your peace, something inside you changes forever. You stop crying and you start calculating. People think revenge is loud, shouting and chaos. But the real kind, the one that lasts, it's silent. It grows in the dark, watered by heartbreak and time. That's the kind I learned. You see, I never meant to become the woman who planned an entire life's worth of retribution. But when I tell you what they did to me, how they took everything I had and left me to rot in shame, you'll understand why I did what I did. So, if you're here expecting a sweet story about knitting and tea parties, you might want to hold on tight, because what I'm about to share, it isn't gentle. It's the story of how one grandmother stopped being a victim and became her own kind of justice. Now, take a deep breath, dear, because this isn't just a story. It's a confession. Before I tell you how it all happened, dear, make sure you stay with me till the end. My story isn't just about revenge, it's about survival. And I promise you, every second is worth it. And if you like hearing real stories like mine, stories they thought were too quiet to matter, go on and subscribe. Turn on that little bell so you don't miss the next one. Now, let's begin. I was never a rich woman, but I had a good life, a peaceful one. I lived in a little brick house at the end of Willow Lane, with roses growing wild along the fence and the smell of cinnamon always floating from my kitchen. My neighbors called me Sweet Rosie. I liked that name. I liked the simple days, baking pies for the church fair, knitting tiny sweaters for babies that weren't even born yet, and tending to my garden as if it were my second soul. My husband, God rest his soul, passed away early, but I still had my son, Daniel. Oh, Daniel. He was my pride, my reason to keep going. I raised him through tears and hard winters, working double shifts at the bakery, saving every penny to make sure he never went without. And when he grew into a fine man, kind, hardworking, I thought, my job here is done.
Then came her, Clara. She was beautiful, with a smile that could light up a room and a voice that made even the pastor stutter. When Daniel brought her home, I remember thinking, maybe I'll finally have a daughter. I welcomed her into my life, my kitchen, my heart. I shared recipes, family stories, even the old jewelry my mother left me. I wanted her to feel like she belonged. For a while, I felt like a dream. Sunday dinners, laughter around the table, the clinking of dishes. I thought happiness had returned to my home. But sometimes, dear, evil doesn't shout, it whispers. And Clara's whispers began softly, suggestions here and there, ideas that seemed harmless at first. She'd say things like, "Mom, why don't we help you handle your finances? You shouldn't be worrying about all that paperwork at your age." Or, "We should move the property to Daniel's name, just for safety, in case something happens." I trusted her. Of course I did. I wanted to believe she was protecting me, not planning something darker. It started small. A missing bank statement, a signature I didn't remember signing. Then one morning, I woke up to find a notice nailed to my door. My house, my little home with the rose fence, was no longer mine. Everything had been transferred. Everything. When I ran to Daniel, trembling, begging him to tell me it was a mistake, he looked away. He said Clara had shown him proof that I wanted to give it all to them before I lost my mind. Can you imagine hearing your own child say that? That you must have been confused, that maybe you weren't thinking clearly. They called me forgetful, old, paranoid. And when I tried to fight, Clara's sweet smile turned sharp. She told the neighbors I was having episodes, that I needed help. Before long, people started avoiding me, whispering when I passed by, pitying the crazy widow who lost her house. Then one day they packed their things and left town, just like that. No goodbye, no explanation. They took my savings, my jewelry, my home, and left me with nothing but a small suitcase and a reputation in ruins. I remember sitting on the bench outside the old church that night. The sun was setting, and for the first time in my life, I had nowhere to go. I wanted to scream, to curse God, to stop breathing altogether. But something inside me refused to die. You see, grief can bury you or it can forge you. So I made myself a promise under that fading sky. They think they've buried me, but they've only planted me.
From that day forward, I stopped being Sweet Rosie. I stopped being the woman they could lie to. I became something else entirely, something they'd never see coming. And that, my dear, was the day my silence began to sharpen its edge. People say time heals all wounds. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal, it hides. It buries pain under chores and smiles, under "I'm fine and don't worry about me." But the ache, it never leaves. It just waits. And while it waited, so did I. The first few months after Clara and Daniel left, I drifted like a ghost. I stayed at the church shelter, helping in the kitchen, keeping my hands busy so my heart wouldn't collapse. The ladies there saw me as a quiet old widow. None of them knew that inside, I was memorizing every name, every rule, every system around me. I told myself, if they could steal my life, I could steal my power back. I started small. The library became my second home. I'd sit there for hours, learning how to use the computer, searching for public records, property transfers, business filings. At first, the words made no sense, but I was stubborn. Every night, I'd take notes like a schoolgirl. Slowly, the pieces began to fit. I discovered that Clara hadn't just taken my house, she'd used it to fund her new family business in another town. She'd built an empire of fake smiles, convincing investors to pour money into her so-called wellness company. But it was all built on lies, my money, my home. I remember the first time I saw her picture again on a local magazine cover. She was smiling, draped in pearls, the headline reading, "A Modern Woman's Success Story." I tore the page out and folded it into my pocket. I whispered to it, "Smile while you can, darling." That night, I decided. I wasn't going to the police. I wasn't going to shout, cry, or beg. I was going to do what I did best. Work quietly. Bake slowly. Plan patiently. So, I began my work. At the library, I met a young clerk named Amy. Sweet girl. Always kind to me, always curious about my little projects. I told her I was researching for a family memoir. She laughed and helped me print documents, property listings, even company records. Through her, I found the trail Clara thought she'd hidden: bank transfers, shell companies, fake accounts.
She had tangled herself in greed, and I was learning how to untangle her. Next, I volunteered at a local accounting office. Just small tasks, sorting papers, managing receipts. But every minute there taught me something new about how money moves, how records vanish, and more importantly, how to make them appear again. Months passed, then years. To everyone else, I was just the quiet old lady who liked numbers and tea. But I was collecting everything. Every forged signature, every fraudulent transaction, every witness who'd seen her change her name on a document. I built a mountain of proof so solid it could crush her. But revenge isn't just about evidence, it's about timing. One day, I overheard two businessmen at the cafe discussing Clara's company. They were investors, proud of her success. I smiled and asked innocent questions, the way only an old lady could. "Oh, you mean the pretty woman with the spa business? Such a darling." They laughed and told me more than they should have. That's when I learned she was hosting a grand investors gala, a perfect stage for her downfall. I began to move my pieces. Using the information I had, I started sending anonymous letters to key investors, not accusations, just concerns. Copies of altered documents, snippets of bank transfers, polite little hints. The kind of whispers that spread like wildfire in high society. Within weeks, her company was under quiet scrutiny. Partners began pulling out. The first domino had fallen. Then came Daniel. I hadn't seen him in years. One afternoon, he showed up at the library, thinner, older and broken. Clara had left him too. She said she drained their accounts and disappeared with another man. He begged me to listen, to forgive him. I looked at my son, the boy I once held, the man who once believed a stranger over his own mother. And for a moment, I wanted to scream. But instead, I poured him a cup of tea and said, "You'll help me fix what's broken." I didn't tell him everything, not yet. I simply asked him to retrieve a few files, to make a few calls, to visit a lawyer he once knew. He thought it was for closure. I knew it was for war. Through Daniel, I reconnected with Clara's old contacts, tracing her through their conversations. Turns out she had moved again. New name, new venture, this time a luxury retreat for wealthy clients. She was even using my old recipes, my handwriting on the brochures. Oh, the irony. I smiled. I was proud of her audacity and even prouder of what was coming. I gathered every last bit of evidence into one package and sent it to a journalist I'd met at the library, under a fake name. I didn't need fame or credit. I just wanted the truth to breathe. The article dropped like a storm. Headlines screamed, "Luxury wellness CEO accused of fraud, shocking ties to stolen assets." The investors vanished overnight. Police investigations reopened. Clara's perfect empire cracked like old glass. Daniel was devastated when he realized who exposed her. He came to me, tears in his eyes, asking, "Mom, was it you?" And I told him the truth, calmly, like I was reciting a recipe. "Yes, son, but don't mistake my silence for weakness. Silence was my weapon." He broke down, hugging me like he did when he was a child. I didn't cry. I had no tears left, only peace. But I wasn't done yet. Revenge isn't about destruction, it's about balance.
I took what was rightfully mine, legally, quietly. When the investigation concluded, the property Clara had stolen was returned under my name. Every last cent she forged was frozen. She had nothing left. And when they took her away, she looked at me across the courtroom. No words, just a hollow stare. I didn't gloat. I didn't speak. I simply nodded, like closing a chapter of a book. Afterward, I walked to the same park bench where I'd once sat homeless, staring at the sunset. Only this time, I had my knitting bag beside me. I started a new pattern that evening, one I called patience. Each stitch a reminder of how long it took to get here. People still see me as that gentle old lady. They wave from across the street, bring me pies, ask for gardening tips. None of them know that the sweetest smile in this town once orchestrated a downfall so perfect it felt like poetry. Sometimes justice doesn't wear a badge or carry a gavel. Sometimes it wears wrinkles and baked cinnamon rolls. And me, I don't regret a thing. I didn't just get revenge, I reclaimed my story. If you've listened this far, dear, thank you. My story isn't just mine. It's for every soul who's ever been betrayed and told to stay quiet. Remember this, silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's the sound of strength gathering its breath. If stories like mine speak to you, stories of heartbreak, justice, and second chances, then stay a while. Subscribe so you don't miss the next tale from women like me who learn that time can turn pain into power. Go on, tap that little bell too. Let's make sure these voices, the quiet ones, the forgotten ones, are never lost again. Now, let me tell you how it all ended. After everything was over, the trials, the headlines, the whispers, I went back to my little life. I didn't need much. A cup of tea in the morning, my garden, the smell of fresh bread. The world looked the same, but I was not. People in town still called me Sweet Rosie. They smiled when they passed by, never knowing that behind that name lived a woman who had once pulled an entire web of lies apart, thread by thread. I never corrected them. Let them believe what they want. Sometimes peace is found in what others don't know.
Daniel visits me every Sunday now. We don't talk much about the past. We plant flowers, share meals, and I see the guilt still sitting quietly behind his eyes. I don't punish him for it. Life already did. Forgiveness, I learned, is its own kind of revenge, the kind that sets you free. Clara's name disappeared over time. No one remembers her smile, her company, her fame. But I remember every lesson she left behind. She taught me that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the dark, waiting for the right moment to rise. You know, dear, I used to think revenge would fill the emptiness inside me, that it would make me whole again. But it didn't. It didn't bring back my home, my husband, or the years I lost to grief. What it did bring was peace. The quiet kind that lets you sleep without dreams. Now, when I sit by the window and watch the sun melt into the horizon, I smile because I know I survived. I endured, and I won. Not with anger, but with patience. So, if you ever find yourself broken, betrayed, or left behind, remember me. Remember that even the gentlest hearts can hold thunder, and even the softest hands can deliver justice.
They once called me fragile. They once called me sweet. They forgot roses have thorns.